Let's cross the studio. Emma James is here with Media Watch. Good evening to you.
Hi there.
Starting tonight with more on the fall of Ramadi, of course, key city in Iraq, fallen to Islamic State. We hear there are Shia militia heading there to boost the Iraqi forces, perhaps to try to retake the city. But tell us what you have.
Well, yes, of course, this is really ISIS's biggest success in Iraq for almost a year now. And as the Daily Beast puts it, this counterpunch has really stunned the US and Iraq. A counterpunch because they say this is reaction to their loss of Tikrit. It was their first big city that they took and then lost. The US, though, says the loss of Ramadi is just a setback and not a blow. They expected episodic successes, as they put it, but Daily Beast asks, when does a series of episodic successes become a pattern of wins? So basically, at what point are they going to accept that maybe ISIS really truly are on the march in Iraq and they need to do something more? Now, one of those people who believes that the United States without question needs to be doing something more is John McCain. No great surprise, really, that he's told MSNBC that he believes there should be a US troop presence on the ground in Iraq, that the United States pulled out of there too early. But he's also placing a great deal of responsibility at the door of the Iraqis themselves, saying that they need to change their attitude and the way in which their military are trained if they are to combat ISIS in any way. Now, some of Mr. McCain's other comments are also creating a stir, not least the ones that he's made about this gentleman, Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He says that he's not taking the capture of Ramadi seriously enough. His attitude has sent a message to the terrorist group that basically the US doesn't care. And McCain says the Pentagon as a whole is in denial about the true situation in Iraq.
John McCain does not mince his words, and those words, as you say, very straight and very to the point. Let's move on to a controversy of a different kind now. We're talking about the controversy that's been going on in Cannes. Emma, you will explain, I know.
Cate Blanchett is receiving worldwide praise for her performance in Carol. Now, the lesbian love story was screened yesterday at the Cannes Film Festival, and by many it's being tipped to take the Palme d'Or. But it is this interview that appeared in Variety that has really prompted so much publicity. However good the film is, this is what everyone seems to be talking about. Because in this article, she appeared to imply that she had a bisexual past. Now, she's married now, she's a mother of 4. But this article stated pretty clearly that that was the case. But was it really accurate? Lots of people reporting today that after the screening, there was a press conference and she was asked to elaborate about her sexuality and past sexuality. And she claims that she was actually taken out of context. And basically what she went on to say is, yes, I've had lots of relationships with women, but if you mean sexual relationships, no. Now, what was then printed was obviously only the first half of that phrase, that she'd had lots of relationships with women. Now, she says that in 2015, who should really care about this? Well, there's one person, really, and that is Ramin Setudeh, who wrote the article in Variety magazine. He's tweeted that he asked Cate Blanchett if she'd had lesbian relationships. She said many times. She was accurately quoted, he says. Now, it hasn't stopped him loving the film. He tweeted this also to say that Carol gets the biggest, loudest standing ovations so far at Cannes. Rather blurry photograph there, but you can just see Cate Blanchett standing up. And he says she will definitely land her 7th Oscar nomination for this role. So it has heightened publicity about this movie, but perhaps it never really needed to.
Indeed, indeed. And as Cate Blanchett points out, whose business is it anyway? And why should it matter in 2015? But nonetheless, sex sells, it seems. OK, let's move on to your third story, and a surprise departure from Charlie Hebdo.
Yes, this came out a little earlier this evening. There will be a full report in tomorrow's Libération newspaper because Luz, who is possibly one of the best-known artists, cartoonists working for Charlie Hebdo, the satirical magazine, he has said that he will no longer be Charlie Hebdo, but he'll always be Charlie. A little nod there to the phrase "Je suis Charlie," which of course everyone was carrying around and talking about in the wake of the Paris terror attacks back in January. Now, of course, most of the staff were at an editorial meeting that morning, and they were killed by the extremists who then raided the offices. Luz himself only survived because it was actually his birthday that day. So he was celebrating with his wife and was running late. That's the only reason that he didn't end up suffering the same fate as everybody else, or so many of his colleagues at Charlie Hebdo. Now, Lou's real full name, Reynald Louzier, has told France's Libération that he will no longer be Charlie Hebdo. He's just published a book called Catharsis, which details what happened in the immediate aftermath of the attack, how he felt, his fear, his feeling of abandonment, and the fact that at one point he thought he would never draw again. Now, of course, one of his most famous illustrations is this one, which was the cover of the survivors edition of Charlie Hebdo, featuring the Prophet Muhammad carrying the words "Je suis Charlie" under the words "Tout est pardonné," all is forgiven. That was the cover of survivors edition. After that, he said, I will no longer draw the Prophet Muhammad. He decided to draw a line under that. Obviously, it was the source of so much controversy. It was what the extremists themselves said after the attack had caused them to take out their anger on the staff of Charlie Hebdo. So he now says that he no longer wants to draw anything to do with news whatsoever, possibly the impact of having become news himself in such a terrible way.
You can understand that completely. Emma, thank you very much indeed for that Media Watch. Emma James there. Thanks to Kate Moody, of course, on the other side of our studio for the business. Great to see you. And, of course, thank you for being with us, because without you, it isn't worthwhile. Stay with us. More news to come.